styles of gun.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern, that's 4 Pacific, for about an hour or 90 minutes each day. We do 3 gun-related topics, different topics each throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube, and we simulcast it over at gunchannels.com, where we're watching the live comments that are coming in from everybody that watches the show live. When it's all over, sometimes we'll take the audio and post it up on iTunes as a podcast. So we always encourage anybody that's listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback on whatever platform it is you listen to us. That way we can figure out where everybody is and helps hopefully get the show recommended to more listeners. That's always a goal, so we appreciate that. There's 4 hosts. Everybody's here today. We got Bob jumping in from Canada. Thanks for joining.
Hey, glad to be here, eh?
Dano jumping in from Illinois.
Yep, I'm here to learn all that's worth learning.
And then Smeggy jumping in from Michigan.
Hey, how's everyone doing today?
So I'm assuming you're in Michigan. And then I'm down here in Arizona. So, kind of a late start today. Thanks for running the show yesterday, guys. I had some issues with health, and I don't know where Smeggy was, but we're all here today. And a little bit late, but it makes it better when we're later, I suppose. So anyway, it's episode number 362. It's a Tuesday. So we've been talking about Second Amendment issues. Do you believe the Second Amendment holds the rest of the Constitution and government in check? Do you believe you need your guns so that the U.S. cannot be taken over by tyrannical government, to include taken over from within? And then for our second segment, we'll talk about how to buy a first gun. And then our state of the state this week is a big question mark. So then we'll do all the stuff we normally do on a daily basis. However, before we get into the show, we usually take a break right at the beginning, see if anything happened overnight or anything that's worth talking about.
Oh, I got a couple things.
Sure.
I'll start with one just personally. I got a new Ford F-150 pick-em-up truck yesterday.
Nice.
Actually, why I missed the show yesterday. I was finishing getting it from the dealership, and then I ended up actually going out to dinner right after that.
Because you felt like you hadn't spent enough money?
No. Actually, I didn't buy dinner.
Oh, nice.
So that was a nice little treat for me, not having to buy dinner.
Yeah, that's all right, huh?
Yeah.
Brand new truck, is it? 2017?
Yep.
Oh, boy, you must be rolling in the dough.
Whatever you say.
You
Anyway,
might be
so
rolling into payments.
That's that part of that. But something actually gun related that happened is, I don't know if it was today or if it happened yesterday or not. I just saw it today. It seems like everyone else is talking about it. But the DC, basically Washington DC, like May issue, or what do they call it, the good cause in order to get a carry permit.
Yes.
That was thrown out saying you can't do that in the appeals court or whatever. So I think theoretically Washington DC is a shall issue now. I mean, I'm sure they might fight it, but I think for right now, it's you. If as long as you're not a bad guy, you get a permit. They can't be like, oh, well, you don't have a good enough cause.
Well, that's certainly good news. And, I was kind of, when I first heard that, and granted, this came out just, I think, hours ago. So I don't know if you have all the details fettered out yet. But I would hope that it would apply to more than just DC.
Right, but it does just apply to DC because it's like their level of appeals court. You know, it's the equivalent, and it's just like a state, right? You have the state courts, and then you work your way up through there, then you go federal. So this is their version of like the state court. So it only applies to DC. Although that's at least pretty good precedent if you end up, you know, suing New York or California or so the other ones. The point be like, well, look, even DC said you can. Like, this is their reasoning, and
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully, that's what'll happen, man.
yep. So again, another step in the right direction, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a big.
I stumbled upon an article that I was reading through today. For those of you that live in Arizona, they are looking for volunteer law enforcement personnel. This is from the Arizona City Independent. Arizona Rangers help law enforcement agencies in Pinal County. Is that how you say that, Pinal?
Pina.
Pina County?
Pima.
Oh,
No. Why don't you listen, Bob? He said Pinal.
Okay.
Not all P words are the same. Pima is a different county. That's where I live. Pinal is, or Pinal is, now you're saying it weird. Pinal County is north of here.
No, I thought it was.
okay, but Casa Grande Company of Arizona Rangers assist law enforcement agencies throughout Pinal County with special projects and duties such as crime control, search and rescue, event coverage, said Ron Dohorf, a lieutenant with the Casa Grande Company. Arizona Rangers are volunteers working closely with law enforcement agencies statewide. Currently, there are about 300 volunteers statewide. I thought that was kind of interesting. Are there other states that have volunteer law enforcement?
I'm sure of it. Arizona Rangers have been around like the Texas Rangers for a long, long time. So they've got a whole level of prestige because we were a territory longer than most of y'all.
Right.
But almost everybody has an
guess-
auxiliary police department for a state level and a county level and sometimes even a state level. And they do things like funerals and parades and any kind of stuff where you just need extra bodies. Like a really big funeral or something, and they need all hands on deck, people that know how to fill a uniform and direct traffic, and that's about really the extent of it.
Yeah, currently in Pinal County, they're down to only 7 volunteers. So that's why they're making a stir to try to get some more volunteers because they're about out.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, the Rangers have been around, like I say, just like the Texas Rangers. We had Rangers for a long time, and then even though they're ceremonial now, they're still a pretty big thing. But like everything, maybe it's a fad. Maybe people aren't that impressed. You know, a lot of people move to Arizona. You don't have that same, I don't know, level of interest that, you know, people that grew up here maybe. Anyway, that's interesting. All right, well, I guess we can dig into the show. We're a little bit late. Otherwise, other things to talk about, I'm sure, but we'll dig in. So it's episode 362. Our first segment is Second Amendment issues. First, we should be starting the show with welcome to everybody who's listening live. We really do appreciate it. We've got just 17 people watching at the moment. Hopefully it's because we started late. People are going to realize we're here and see some of the announcements and join us. But for the people that are out there, we like to say thanks and ask where you're listening from. Let us know. And then the other people listening can see where the audience is. And if we're talking about something specifically, we know who's out there that might, you know, have some knowledge on it. Anyway, it lets us know that the chats are working too. So let us know where you're at. Anyway, we're going to start with Second Amendment. Do you believe the Second Amendment holds the rest of the Constitution and government in check? Do you believe you need the gun so that the U.S. cannot be taken over by a tyrannical government and taken over from within? Yes.
That's certainly the theory behind it when it was written. I don't know, are they kind of talking about, do you still need it nowadays? Because I mean, I think it does. Like that threat is out there, but I mean, I don't see much things going into armed rebellion type stuff to keep the government in check. But I think the fact just that people own guns and that right is out there, you know, the government thinks twice. They're at least trying to screw us slowly.
Yeah, I think it helped.
Yeah.
And there was when was that case where someone was messing with a ballot box or something, and the citizens like attacked the police station or something because they were hiding it, and then they ended up getting it and figuring out who actually won the election, all that kind of stuff. That wasn't in the super distant past. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
Not off the top of my head.
I actually remember that. I think that was even after. I think they were Second World War veterans.
Yeah, I wanted to say it was like in the 50s.
Are you talking about the Battle of Athens in Tennessee?
Yes.
That was in Tennessee. It's north of Chattanooga, south of Nashville or something. Whichever one's on the right, Nashville or Knoxville.
But yeah, that was an example of citizens owning guns and standing up to government.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see why something like that couldn't happen again nowadays if they were really trying to screw around and mess something up. I mean, people would get together and say, "Hey, you're not allowed to do that."
How about a little more recently, the Bundy Ranch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was going to ask a question before we go down the Bundy Ranch road. Is I actually see 3 questions in this question. And that's why I actually added on part or to include taking over from within. That's typically referred to as a soft coup. It is not necessarily a foreign power coming over here where there's a rifle behind every blade of grass, but simply taken over from within, and the Constitution is just simply ignored. And in that case, if the Constitution is being ignored, then I would have to say, yes, that is the purpose that it serves.
Yeah, I'd say because there's always that potentiality that people don't even get into scheming about just taking this over. I mean, it makes it a non-issue, right? It takes it out of the list of possibilities, at least I think. Like nobody can just come in and go, "Oh, I've got elected in. Now let's just take this all back to the drawing board." They know that they can't really do that.
Right. Yeah, I'm dictator now. Haha, just kidding. People are going to be like, "Nope, you are not."
But as far as keeping the government in check, I think only if the government goes way outside the lines would it actually keep it in check. Like I mentioned, holding the Constitution null and void. That would be going way beyond the lines.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're not going to be like, "Oh man, my city passed a 1% tax hike. Like, let's go storm the governor's office or something." Like, you know,
right?
You're not going to do that kind of stuff. But for clarification, I looked it up. It was 1946 when that happened. So any people that say, "Oh, you don't need the Second Amendment anymore. The government's not tyrannical. Like that was way back in the day, blah, blah, blah. They were scared of England or something." No, dude, that's modern times. I mean, 46 is still modern times, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been incidents in the 19th century of our U.S. government doing heinous things to our citizens. It's just that they were relatively small in scale and fortunately didn't last terribly long. I mean, from the imprisoning of the Japanese, as to the Tuskegee experiments, just to name 2 off the top of my head. But I'm referring to larger things, like I keep going back to the Constitution, because that's the best example I have of going. The train's not starting to go off the tracks. The train is off the tracks, off the road, down the bridge, in the water, across the river.
Well,
But
right.
if
So,
it's just as an example, if we go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish it.
I was just going to say, either from either perspective, if we either had a president that tried to not discharge, but dismiss the Congress and their powers, or if we had a Congress that attempted to do the same thing in reverse to the president and all future presidents, either one of those cases, you would have one of the legs of government pulling basically a tyrannical move, whether it's from the executive branch or the congressional branch.
Well, I guess my point on it is that although I guess it's always theoretically possible or always a potential that we'll need to actually hold up, grab our guns out of the closet and use them to defend, the country or the system government or something grandiose like that. I think that every single moment of every single day we gain by the Second Amendment and the concept that we're each individually free to the level that the government can't take away something like means of self-defense or a means of force from the individual. And whether or not someone even takes up the, appreciates that right or, uses the right, enjoys the right, and if all they do is sit around scrutinizing the right, they're still living in a country that's built by individuals who fundamentally know that they are the center of it all. And unlike these countries where you're a subject and fundamentally underneath it all, that you don't mean nothing. You're just a little cog, that the rest of the stuff is not there to support you. That, that is something that we gain from the Second Amendment. Like I say, even if people are vehemently opposed to it, they're still getting that from it every day. We live in a country of inventors and entrepreneurs and great scientific people and people that dreamt and got us to the freaking moon with the imperial measurement system and all the harmful greenhouse gases. So we've moved the world into the better places, and we've protected the world. We didn't take it all, and all that comes from a core knowledge that you are powerful and you can stand your ground and you are an individual and that matters. And other countries don't promote that. And that's that concept of, there's just the concept that that you're free to have this stuff and you're living in a country full of other free people. It creates that environment, and that's what makes us so freaking awesome. And that's a core piece of it. It's a deadly, lethal edge of something that's an important tool. And again, even if you don't utilize it personally ever in your entire life, you benefit from it. That's my take on it.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Like, you don't excuse me. You don't have to be the one fighting back, knowing that there are people out there that are willing to or able to will keep the government in check. It's almost like the carry thing. You don't even necessarily have to carry yourself in order to keep bad guys in check. The threat of that being out there will make bad guys second guess themselves.
That assumes an awareness, which is not absolute.
I'm not saying 100% of the things, but yeah, I mean,
you have to acknowledge your appreciation to, be under its umbrella. People can deny, in fact, that CCW does what Smeggy just said, but he's right. You don't have to carry a gun to enjoy the crime-free environment that a criminal afraid of who might have a gun or not provides. And you don't have to carry a gun. You don't even have to like the concept of carrying a gun to live in that free, crime-free situation, because there's just the potential of somebody carrying a gun.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Well, I disagree, but we'll move on.
You disagree? That people, or what
Yes.
part of it?
With the part that the fact that some people carry creates that criminals are going to assume that everyone's carrying, therefore they'll reduce their impact on as far as crime is concerned.
Well, they don't
Their
assume
criminal
everyone,
activity.
but they don't know who is.
Right. They don't assume everyone is. They assume anyone could be. And some of them might.
Right. It's
Well,
and
I
that's the
think
thing.
my
It's the people that are
perspective.
kind of in the middle or like on the edge, right? Like they're kind of bad guys, but they're not quite sure if they want to do something that might persuade them not to.
Okay, I guess from a psychological point of view, I can understand what you're saying.
I mean, that's something that's worth talking about, because I don't have any. I'm just going off of that FBI thing where they interview a bunch of bad guys and they say, what are you most afraid of? And they'll say a regular person with a firearm versus a cop, because a cop has a program set of rules. I know, I put in input and I get output. Unless there's a weird fluke, I can deal with the cop. They're not there to kill me. They're there to take me into custody. Where a regular person with a gun is afraid of being whatever and takes it to lethal whatever. They don't put it like that, but anyway, they're more afraid of a regular person with a gun than a cop or anybody else without a gun. So that added to, typically with the information I've seen, shows that when there's concealed carry, crime goes down. So I just put those two together. But if I've never been trained in psychology or nothing, so maybe it's worth looking into that. Is there really a correlation there?
Yeah, because there are organizations fairly large where their core belief is that the police will proactively go after them. Primarily, example being Black Lives Matter. Not trying to change the topic. I'm just trying to use that as an example of somebody who thinks that.
Dano, they don't really believe that, but they know they can make a lot of money off of preaching it. I'm talking.
Well, I'm not talking about the big wigs that are getting the money. I'm talking about the regular people doing the marching. And that, I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, they're just dumb. There's a lot of dumb people out there.
A lot of comments going on both sides today, so I'm trying to keep up with them. Let's see. So, seeing a lot of this, like Clover Tack brought up the concept of the Second Amendment being the teeth of the Constitution, and said maybe the consequence is the bite, and that might have been a better word. Enrique saying the teeth is really the private property and private property rights or private rights and title. And that's true. I don't think the Second Amendment is our Constitution. The Second Amendment is just something that was added to it to make it even better. But the Constitution itself is the teeth, I think, the part that says we're each individually free.
It adds to an assurance that it will continue in perpetualness. I forget the word, perpetual.
Perpetuity.
Thank you, perpetuity.
So then Enrique brought up, just take them away slowly, like they're doing now. States attorney generals don't enforce constitutional laws, and over time the feds will integrate in the state policies as normal. So if what he's saying there is that you gradually heat up the water until no one realizes they're getting boiled, I think that is definitely a strategy, and that's the vigilance that we're tasked with. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. So we can be apathetic and sleep, and stuff will erode. If you neglect your roof, the rain will eventually erode it away, and it will be ineffective.
No, it's not that it will. We know it has.
Well, yeah, it's got some weathering, but it's not broke through or nothing. It hasn't failed. It's just had.
I mean, if we look at the last 100 years versus the 100 years before that.
Well, if you're talking about Second Amendment, it's like 176 years before we get to 1934 with the first act of federal legislation on firearms.
Right.
And then the last other stuff has happened in the last since 34. So what is that, 60, 80 years? Not even 100? Every single act of federal legislation on firearms has been in almost, well, our grandparents' lifetime for sure. Some of our parents' lifetime. I don't think any of our lifetimes, but for sure our parents. No, our grandparents for me. So that's generations of people that lived without any kind of necessity of a federal firearms, anything other than the Second Amendment. Somehow we did a whole bunch of stuff between the 1700s and the 1934. But anyway, so is there anything else to say? This is a big topic.
Well, let me ask you just, and maybe there's nothing to this, but what do you think about the potential of takeover of our government from within? Whether it be an existing party or a new party, use the system to go in and corrupt our government. When I say corrupt, I mean deviate from the Constitution, even if it's a popular movement that, i.e., gets votes. So they have enough senators and they have enough representatives to get things passed, and then after time goes on, they make it get a president in there to help, stamp some of these new philosophies or old philosophies. I guess that's what I was thinking in terms of internally taking over from within.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's.
Imagine if
you've seen that show on the presidents before.
Took over.
You seen that show on the presidents where they break them up into groups, like the founding fathers, and then the next group, and then the next group, and then the ones through the wars, and then the more recent ones. They break all the presidents up into about, I think, 5 shows. They do a pretty neat job of explaining them all. It's been on Netflix, I think, or maybe Amazon the last year or so. I think it was a TV.
Oh yeah, I saw that about a year ago. It's in a great show.
Yeah, so that kind of shows you that there's already been exactly what you're talking about. I don't know if they would say, I'm here to change the country, but they'd say, I'm here to make the country better or some shit. And yeah, they're trying to tweak it into what they want. And that's, again, I think that's part of individual responsibility when you're free. You can't expect no one to ever want to take your freedoms. So you need to be aware of it and, well, do whatever you can do. Vote, make noise, and be active when there's stuff that matters to you. Preaching the choir there, I think, with this audience.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, let's carry on.
Anything else on this topic?
I don't know.
We solved the government.
There's a lot of comments going on out there, and I feel like part of the live show is that we're getting the comments, and we always ask for them. So I want to address some of them at least. There's an interesting conversation
Sure.
back and forth on the YouTube side between Cycle and Clover, on whether it's the individual, like, I guess to summarize it, if I can summarize it like this, that it's the individual moral decline that starts the ball rolling towards dissent, I guess, and Cycle saying it's more of the breakdown of individual rights, which makes the individual subservient to the society or to the country, to the state, and having a little discussion on that. Yeah, I think this is a big topic. We could probably chop it up a little bit and address it again if people are interested. There's definitely a lot of comments going on about it. Enrique must have mistyped. He says Daniel makes a good point, but yeah, he must be a typo.
Hey, I like Enrique even more.
So, the point of these topics of our shows is to get the conversation started. So feel free to take these conversations out to the Gun Channel's lobby, to one of the other group shows, panel discussions or something, or consider starting a live show of your own sometime and talking about some of these issues. You don't have to do, commit to like a weekly show or anything. If you just want to talk about something, get something off your chest or get some other people's opinion on something.
If there's an aspect of this that you want to go ahead and take on your show, go ahead and take it.
With that, we'll head into the second segment of the show, which is going to be how to buy a first gun. So before we do, we like to take a break between the first and second segment of the show every day to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a place we built a while back. It's a community. It's focused on firearms. There's lots of fun things to do. We encourage you to check it out. It's completely run by its members. Because of that, we take one each day and feature him here on the show. Today it's Smeggy 42. It's his full name. He's a little snowman, and he's one of our hosts on the show here. I think there's a theme to this week. I don't remember.
How did he get repeated so quickly?
Because there's a theme to this week. So anyway,
okay.
something in common with all the people that were featured this week.
People who are totally awesome? Is that the theme?
Maybe.
I think so.
Anyway, Smeggy has been real active on the place, and that's when we built the place. That's what we built it for. So thanks, Smeggy, for all you do and for being you.
No problem. Thanks for allowing me to use the place and whatnot. That's one of the things I've said a lot about Gun Channels when talking to other people, is that in my day-to-day life, I only even have like a couple buddies that are into guns. One of them knows, less than me. He's a cool dude or whatever. He's not like super into it. He just likes them. And the other guy, I would say for a while, we were about on par with each other. And the problem is, how do you learn new stuff if you're never talking to people who know more than you? So Gun Channels has allowed me to talk with people who know more than me. And I think I've learned a whole bunch because of it. And I really appreciate talking with everyone on there, whether it's in the lobby or the live shows or, whatever, any of the things. Just watching the stuff going on, different posts and articles that people put on there. So,
and what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, I can't recall how many times, more than I got fingers and toes, where somebody had may not have known about one topic, but they knew a whole lot about another topic that I knew very little about, and was able to help me out in one way or another tremendously. So I agree with you on that.
So you're saying you can just listen to Gun Channels for a night and then go around the next day acting like a big shot to all your friends, like you know everything.
That's right. Open up, my own gun trainer facility, because I'm an internet gun expert.
Right on. We're changing lives. All right. With that, then let's get into the second subject of the day. Thanks again, Smeggy. How to buy a first gun. Just buy a Glock 19. Walk out of the store. You're done.
Done.
Well, no, I disagree with that. I think it depends on what
do we want to play the role of the friend or the role of the gun store clerk?
Well, I'm the one that put this in here because recently I had a guy that I work with. I'm known around the office as the gun guy. Just everyone knows it. I can't hide it. I don't care. I mean, hell, I have a Gun Channels decal on my new truck. That was the first thing I did when I pulled in the driveway. I went inside, grabbed the decal, and put it on there. Second thing I did was took all my patches and put it in there. But anyways, so anyway, the guy comes up. He's like, hey, me and my wife were thinking about getting a gun. What should I get? That type of question. And so I want to at least say kind of what I said to him, and then you guys could give suggestions or whatever and do it better. But I basically asked him, what do you want to use it for? First and foremost, because that is obviously going to depend. And he's like, well, we kind of want it for home defense, but also I kind of just want something I can have fun with at the range. Like, I just want to use it for fun. And so basically the next step I told him was like, there's kind of like different categories of guns. I kind of looked at it as there's revolvers, there's like a full-size gun, a tiny little compact, and you have like metal and plastic in all those categories, right? Like full-size metal, full-size plastic, a tiny little metal, tiny plastic. And then actually there's two different kind of revolvers out. Again, real broad groups, just like a big revolver and a little like snubby revolver. And since he doesn't want to carry, I toss the small ones right out of the way because those aren't going to be that fun at the range. And why have a little tiny one if you're not trying to put it in your pocket anyways? And then, so the next thing I said is, let's go to the range. I said, I'll go with you. We'll rent a bunch of stuff, and at least you can see kind of what type you like. And then you can start arguing about, okay, what brand and what specific, where's your price range, blah, 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 whatever. But at least if I want, a full-size gun in 9mm or whatever, then that's where you're starting with, and then you pick whichever one you want. So that was my strategy. Do you guys have other advice for someone that is basically saying, hey, I want a gun? Okay, where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's easy. This is the simplest thing ever. All you tell them is the only gun to buy is a Browning high power. And done.
I guess what I would suggest and what I've done in the past with people that I know is, and it may sound like a stupid question, but I'll ask them, ideally, what are your thoughts of what you would like to do with this gun? Is this for keeping your home safe? Is this for hunting?
Right. I think that's always the first step is, what the heck are you using it for? I think that's always the first question.
And then, do you want to be able to, do you have friends that shoot skeet? Is that where you're looking to get into, some group activity?
Right. Well, I guess in this particular one, it was like, hey, I want a handgun. So we already figured out that category of it. But you're right. If someone's just like, I want something that goes bang, yeah. Are you using it for hunting? Do you want a rifle? You want a shotgun? You want that's true. And it's something I just kind of thought of also just right now is that a lot of people, and that's what this guy's thinking, and I know there's a lot of other people that think the same way, is they're trying to find the one gun that will be just best at everything. They want it to do a bunch of different stuff. And so sometimes you have to be like, all right, just so you know, it can probably it can do everything, but it's not going to be the best at everything. You're going to have to figure out what is more important and go towards that. And there's no reason why you only ever have to have one gun, especially if it's not just for home defense. It's also, I kind of want a new hobby. I want something to do for fun. Well, then, of course, you're going to start getting other ones because you're going to start trying different things.
I mean, another example of a type of gun owner out there would be the guy that's a fly fisherman and wants to go up to Alaska, but needs to be able to protect himself in case a bear decides to go after some salmon, or maybe look at him as some salmon. And the type of gun that's appropriate for that may be different than the type of gun if you're looking for home security, or possibly having the option down the road, if you change your mind, on maybe concealed carrying. And that's why I like to go into what's the primary thing, but what's the second? Maybe you don't want to do it right now, but you like to leave the door open for down the road, that this gun might also be suitable for something else in case you decide to do it.
I think he kind of told that to Smeggy. I think he mentioned that, Smeggy, that he said, for home defense, but also something you can take to the range and have fun with. So.
Right. Now, do you guys start right away after, let's say after you get that answer, do you just start making suggestions there and being like, okay, well then you want a Glock, or kind of what G-Wubs did, or do you then try and figure out maybe what caliber, or what what's the next thing the person has to figure out?
What I try to steer the person towards, because sometimes there's more than one solution that would fit for that particular goal, is towards a range that has rent-a-guns, so that they can fire an autoloader, they can fire a revolver that might both fit their stated needs at that moment.
And then they may end up buying 2 guns because the wife's going to really want one and the husband's going to want a different one. So,
yeah, because, you know, looking at numbers and ballistics and people's wild tales from the West of recoil doesn't really mean much to a person that's never shot a gun.
Right. Well,
They actually need to go out there and...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it.
Oh, I was going to say that's one of the things that he said that I could tell was kind of like, oh, this guy hasn't really shot a gun before. She's like, I want something that, like, you know, I can feel it. Like, I want to feel the recoil, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying. But I think after you shoot some, like, you know, whatever, like a really hot, like 44 Magnum or whatever, you're going to say, wow, that was neat. And you're not going to go to the range that often if that's the only thing you own.
Yeah.
and I don't think his wife's going to go to the range that often if that's the only thing he owns. Not saying that they can't handle it or that they don't like it, but they might have more fun with something that doesn't quite kick so much. So I'm like, okay, well, hey, I got no problem. Let's try it out. Let's find a big ass, like big heavy thing. You blast it, go, wow, that was awesome. And then try shooting a 45 and a 40 and a 9 and, you know, figure out which one you actually enjoy shooting the most.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, so I think we've solved it. Basically, buy a Browning high power. There you go.
No. So I only got to say at the beginning there. So I'm going to go back to I don't think you're doing that much of a favor to anybody if you get them all into all that. It says how to buy a first gun. It doesn't say like how to counsel somebody and all that, everything they've ever thought about buying a gun before. So I think there's just something to be said for just having them buy the damn Glock 19. There's a reason I keep saying that one. And
are you being serious?
Yeah, I'm being serious. You can fart around giving somebody every freaking detail. If, let's say you wanted to go buy a train set, and you say, I want to go buy a train set. And it's not because you want to delve into the intricacies and the history and the operation of every single train set that ever existed right off the bat. You want to play with a damn train set. So you're asking somebody who's knowledgeable to give you a train set that's going to give you all the pleasure that you want out of a train set quickly, without all the nuisance of, or the nuance, or all the extra costs, right? You're just like, how can I get into this and play, you know, satisfy my curiosity? So I think if you're talking about counseling somebody, or if you're making that decision, you buy a Glock 19. It's a 9mm, it's a mid-size, it's literally the medium of all guns. There's any way you want to, you know, line up the characteristics of guns, the Glock 19 is undoubtedly going to fall right in the center of all that stuff. And on top of all that, you can resell it.
Self-responsibility. They need to pick their own gun.
Well, you know, I hate to agree.
I don't think so. You don't go to a kid and go, "Oh, you want your first motorcycle? Let's talk about every single thing about, including the history of, and every single possible use of." You buy your kid a first motorcycle.
First of all, my assumption is that we were talking to an adult, not a child.
Doesn't matter.
And we're talking about somebody that,
if you're going to counsel someone, if you're offering advice, is it that great of advice to go, let's talk about your feelings for a half an hour, and then we'll get in touch with your emotions.
Nobody said anything about feelings. We said, what do you want to do with it? Now, I understand you don't feel that's a legitimate question. I most certainly do.
No, I'm just saying I think there's a point where you can say, great, you want to get a gun? Let's go get you a damn gun. And then, since, like I think Pant said over here on the gun channel side, they're like potato chips. You're not going to get just one. We all know that. You're starting somewhere. And if it turns out this person is like Bob and they hate Glocks, then they bought their Glock and they've experienced it and they can resell it. What are they going to lose? Everybody's talked about it before. It's like renting. You buy one, you don't like it, you sell it, you lose $100. You know, you lose $200. So
yeah, but it's not your money to make that decision on. And I guess that's the point of view I'm taking on, is I don't want to just easily be spending someone else's money. I want them to make an informed decision, whether it's a car or whether it's a $500-600 gun.
So that's my approach, is to just get them started, and get them started with the medium, middle of all guns.
Well, and that's definitely, although I don't appreciate you claiming that I'm talking about his feelings for 5 hours in the history and all this other stuff, I do see what you're trying to say, is that, you know, if someone's just like, hey, I know you know a bunch of stuff, what should I get? And you're right, it would be the same as if someone's like, oh, I want to get a car, what should I get? And you're like, Get the Taurus.
Yeah.
It'll get you to work. It works, you know, it drives. If someone like didn't know anything about cars or whatever.
And that's assuming that you have no idea what the person's budget for a car is. You're just giving them, well, here's a car that will do most things. So get it. So get a Taurus.
They just came up and said, I need to buy my first car. I don't know anything about them. I want to buy a new car. There you go. You already know what they want to spend money on a new car. Tell them the best new car for their first car is this, and after you drive that, and everything else, you get used to driving cars, you get used to having a car, then you can think about getting something that's more, to your flavor. But buying something in your flavor as your first thing is never a good idea, because you may end up disliking that flavor pretty quickly. But
that's how you learn. You learn from your mistakes.
And that's why
you're allowed to learn from your mistakes. But if I suggest that you can always just recover from a Glock, then I'm wasting people's money. But you're just learning from helping them learn from their mistakes. This is bias.
No, I'm saying if they make a poor decision. But if I think they're making a really bad decision, I will say, I realize you're looking at this Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum, but I really don't think for what you want to do that's going to fit the bill, and you're going to really hate it after you get it and shoot it. Now, after I tell them that, if they decide to go ahead and get that 500 Magnum, that's on them. That's not on me.
Because that's like $1,000 level gun. That's not casual. Let's go buy a gun decision for most people.
Brand new Taurus is a lot more than $1,000.
Well, I'm not bringing cars into it. That's a major purchase decision, and obviously you don't just casually buy another car. But when we're talking a couple $100 used gun, I don't think it's going to, affect anybody's financial.
I don't think I would advise anyone to buy a used gun for their first gun. Like you say, a Glock 19 or one of those other plastic throwaway guns are dirt cheap. So why not?
Always buy used. Let somebody else pay for the depreciation.
Not for a new gun owner. They want something nice and new that's always going to work. Or
not really. I can think of lots of people that are willing to start cheap to get into on the cheap.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I definitely do understand your point of view. I guess I'm biased in the fact that when I want something, even if I ask for someone's advice, I still want to figure out all the other details, and I'm looking for information when I talk to someone who's really into whatever thing that I don't understand yet, but I still go out and research myself. So I guess maybe I'm just assuming other people are like that as well. But you're starting to sway me on that approach of get a Glock 19, get it in their hands, get them shooting, and they'll figure out the rest from there. I don't look at guns
the same way that I look at screwdrivers. Screwdriver is a screwdriver is a screwdriver. The only difference is the length.
But hold on, I hear you.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
But no, I hear what Dan was trying to say. But again, if you're just somebody who's like, I'm thinking about filling with an erector set, or I want to figure out how machines work. I need a set of screwdrivers. Again, you're not going to be like, let's sit down and talk about screwdrivers for a while. Which one of these fits your hands the best? What do you think you're going to be taking apart? All kinds of questions about what you're going to be doing and what you think. And if you're just like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this up, but you get them a medium screwdriver that's kind of the best for everything, and then
I guarantee you there was something that motivated them, whether it was to protect them while fishing or whether it was self-defense in the home. There was something that spurred them to want to buy a firearm.
Well, okay.
And I want to make sure that that's covered.
Okay, I agree with you, but name anything you could possibly do with a firearm or have anything. I challenge you to think of anything that a Glock 19 ain't going to be like the number 3 in the best possible guns for it.
Bear defense gun?
Yeah. There's hardly anybody's going to get their first gun to defend bears, but okay, yes. But that's person who cares about buying like a 10mm plus, and they're not buying it for recreational, so that's a very specific thing. But a 19 would still be in the top whatever, because it's the gun you carry, is the one you have with you, and you can shoot a bear in the temple. If Bob's convinced you can shoot a bear with a 22, at least I'd have a 9.
Yeah, 22's got more penetration.
It's
okay. You just heard it. Bob said 22's got more penetration than a 9. You just said it.
What?
Bob just said 9mm 22's got more penetration than a 9 into a bear.
Oh, okay.
skull.
Didn't you?
No, I said bear skull.
Okay, so 22 has more penetration into a bear skull than 9mm.
Right.
But then everything else in the world, 9mm has more. So it's that
No.
magic bear skull.
No. I'll prove that change. Like cow skull don't work.
But aside from Canadian issues, we don't have that many bear attacks in the United States, unless you're talking about Alaska. Then people were given advice to in the 50 states, 48 of these states. Again, most everything you talk about, just casually going to the range. Glock 19 will work for that. Defense, of course. Taking it for marksmanship, it would still work. And again, it's something that's so multi-useful that, let's say they get into guns because something XYZ. Once they get into guns, they figure out, oh, I like this and that and the other thing. Unless it's a shotgun sport, the Glock 19 is going to take them along. You know, if it's 3-gun, if it's just shooting at the range, if it's defense, that 19 is going to work for them for quite a while until they figure out exactly what they want. It's a better gun for them.
Yeah.
And the purpose of my initial question was to find out exactly what they want.
But
I guess I was just looking at it as to shortcutting the system and just ask them what they want it for.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just kind of agreeing with you, saying I think the 19 applies to everything they want. So that's why I think it's just a faster way to say, okay, let's get you that 19 and get you going.
I mean, it certainly fits many categories.
Uh-huh. All right, so I guess we agree that the again,
Hang on.
9mm is the superior round, and
No, hang on. So
Glock 19 is second to the Browning high power.
oh my God, no one cares about the high power. Anyways, I just thought of something that I find very interesting. So if someone wants to get their first gun, G-Webs doesn't care about any details or questions or anything. Get the Glock 19. If someone says, hey, I want an AK, what should I get? We have to go down the whole history of everything that's possibly available from all the builders and get all nerded out about exactly which one your thing has, and bring him 5 options and he'll tell you which one's a good one. And
Right.
And when he's done, he'll say, I can't recommend an AK to anyone. There's just too many.
You're right. And that's a good what do you call it, example of the difference between pistols and AKs. There is a Glock 19. If there was a Glock 19 of AKs, I'd say buy it. You can't say Wasser because they've been around forever and you can get them that are all shot out. You can't say Century, for crying out loud. They bring in more guns than almost anybody. So you can't say an Arsenal. They've been bringing in guns longer than anyone. They bring them in by the freaking boatload. So to suggest any Arsenals are the same is ridiculous. And if you were to tell somebody, oh yeah, buy that Arsenal on the shelf, and they're buying a 16-year-old Arsenal with a shot out barrel and it's all sloppy, and they pay a premium for it because it says Arsenal on it, and all kinds of suckers will pay for anything that has the name brand on it because they don't pay attention. So I think you guys bring up a great point that AKs are nothing like other guns. And if someone's buying an AK, it's more of what's available to you, and of those, which one, here's my advice on those 4 or whatever, as opposed to theoretically out of all AKs, which is the most produced gun on the planet, outweighing even the AR-15s and M16s by a multiple of 4. And you go pick this immensely huge population of guns and tell me which one I should just buy. It's ridiculous.
Something I've noticed, and maybe I'm just being too picky, but you say the most produced, and I understand that statement, but each country that they come of, they are slightly different. So they are not the identical cookie out of the cookie maker. They are all different cookies.
You're right. There's like 6 generations of Glocks by now, and we still say Glock sometimes because it's easier than saying Glock Gen 3 or something. So you're right. But if I am going to count all Kalashnikovs as a model, which is when people say I want to buy an AK, they don't mean I want to buy a country. They say AK. So they're saying platform, so I'm saying platform. 4 times more of that platform on the planet than even the M16, which there's a massive amount of. And actually, that number can't be true anymore. There's so many ARs being made now.
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, plus
or something, but there's still more than twice as many AKs on the planet than there are ARs.
Yeah, but there's 20 times as many variations of ARs.
No, I don't know. Maybe nowadays you're right with all the crazy stuff coming out of people's garages, basically.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But there's still AKs coming out of people's garages. So,
Well, and if you count every time someone puts a different handguard on an AR, if that's a different variation of the AR.
oh, come on. You talk about every time somebody has, because we have to assemble them for the most part because of 922R and the stupid sporting use clause that'll hopefully be disbanded for the legal use, or legal use, right? So because of that 922R, we have to build, and because people are building and parts kits are difficult to obtain and there's more US parts, we're seeing a crazy weirdness of AK stuff now. So there's just all kinds of weird combinations and pieces being thrown together. There's all kinds of stuff happening there.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, how did we get on this subject? ARs.
Because I said a Glock.
So if we wrapped
it's a
up,
perfect gun to recommend, and you guys are trying to say that I can't recommend an AK, but I'm saying they're apples and oranges. Literally, you can't. That's why you can say, I can confidently say it with a pistol. Like, there are a finite amount of pistols, and we know what they are.
Finite variations of the Glock 19, right? Or you just say a stock Glock 19 because that's your basic.
Until this fifth, you're right. Whenever the 5 is on the shelves, then I'll modify my thing. But it'll probably just be to modify it to a Gen 3 Glock 19. Because for a long time, the Gen 3 Glock 19 is like buying the what I drive, Crown Vic. It's a car that not everybody's going to want it, but it's a fleet vehicle. That means there's always going to be parts for it, and taxis still use it. So the Glock 19, it's going to be around for a long time as this gold standard, and then something else will eventually take its place. And I won't be recommending the Glock 5s, and I don't recommend the 4s. I keep saying 3, but in this conversation, I've just been saying Glock.
I recommend the Glock 5s. I've been using them. What did I just say? Glock 5? Hell no. 4.
Well, one of my things that I like the Glock
Anyway.
for is simple parts, and the 4 starts adding complicated parts you don't need. There's no reason to move the safety or the mag release to the other side. That's a waste of time and effort. So
Unless you're left-handed.
no, it's crippling. Why would you want to literally handicap?
For the same reason that you want to use your thumb to eject your magazine, I want to use my thumb to eject my magazine.
Now that you're practical and no longer a noob, why would you want to literally handicap yourself? Literally, like the Chinese little girls back in the day, bind your ankles so that you'll never be able to walk again. If you get used to a mag release on the wrong side of a gun, the first time in real life you have to pick up a gun and use it under stress, and you're going to find yourself fumbling for a mag release that doesn't exist. No, I would never recommend to a left-handed person to cripple themselves with the left-handed mag release. It's the most, no way, never. That's a crucial muscle memory manipulation thing. Get used to it on the right side.
For a reason. So if you happen to be left-handed, and if it seems to work for you, use it.
No, never.
But granted, you're coming from the right-handed world, and I am coming from the left-handed
real world where every gun is on that side except for a few.
I mean, I'll give you your opinion for the right-handed world, but you do not speak for the left-handed world.
No, I do speak because I care about the left-handed world. I'm not just out for their feelings and their vote. I'm trying to keep them alive. And why would you cripple yourself on your own one gun, maybe 2 guns, a few models out there that do that, when every other gun on the planet that you might have to pick up in a time of crisis is going to be on the other side? Why would you cripple yourself?
Zombie apocalypse?
Because I'm not that stupid to realize that other guns are not set up with the reverse mag.
Okay.
Under stress?
Oh, Bob,
your stress happens. All right. Well, I guess maybe that should be a topic for today. How to tell left-handed people what's right.
Okay. We ready to move?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Windbreaker time?
Okay.
Thanks for reminding me.
It's time. It's time to move. It's time to get the windbreaker. It's time for the tactical pop quiz of the day. It's finally here. So those of you over on YouTube and those of you over on gun channels, put your cursor down in the box, limber up your fingers. Smeggy, are you available to assist today?
Yep, And I've seen the answer.
Excellent. I will read the question. This one was by Cycle Camp, I believe. So thank you, Cycle Camp. And by the way, if you have questions with the correct answers and a link to the answer, please send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com. Could use some questions because we are getting low. So once again, send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com. On the subject line, just put pop quiz. So thank you very much for those of you that have sent in questions. And for those of you that are going to, thank you again. So the question is as follows. What rifle and cartridge was used to shoot the world record Rocky Mountain elk in 1899? Once again, what rifle and cartridge was used to shoot the world record Rocky Mountain elk in 1899?
How big was the elk? What was his rack? How many points? What did he weigh?
Well, actually, I have a picture here. I'm going to try to separate it so I can screen share it here.
Pictures are so. I want to know the weight.
30-40.
I believe he said what rifle and caliber, not just the series of numbers.
Caliber.
Sharps
So it's a
45-7.
two-part answer.
Now the Sharps.
Winchester 94 30-30. Oops. Sharps 45-70. So the answer has sort of been said, but not completely.
Yeah.
There it is. Dog Body got it. He
Great.
adjusted his answer.
Dog Body? Q-Webs, if you could click on my picture so those at home can kind of see the rack on this world record elk that we're talking about. So Dog Body Official, congratulations. You are the Tactical Pop Quiz winner for today.
What year
And
did you say this was?
just
What year did
What?
you say this was? What year did you say this was?
1899.
That
He's
doesn't look
got
like
two
an
racks there, but the bigger one is the world record.
Okay, so that's a modern picture of a rack from 1899.
Yes,
It's not an 1899 picture. Okay.
correct.
I'm not sure if did we say it, but the answer was a Craig 3040.
Yes.
Yes, which was not a well-liked cartridge, so it's kind of a.
It's a stupid cartridge, because that's why.
But
And
if you
he's
look at the
right.
size of that rack, that's got to be at least 5.5 feet wide.
Yeah, and for all our podcast listeners who might be just tuning in, we're talking about a rack on an elk. I know
Yes.
it was Dano talking.
Oh, they figured it out. You don't have to qualify that.
Well, I just had to because if somebody came in and heard Dano, going on about a rack, they might think he'd been
I
off. his-
feel like for the esteem of the elk, though, why do we have to judge them simply based on their rack?
And for those that may not be aware, yes, bull elks grow their horns. So,
So anyway, that was a
congratulations.
pretty
So, Smeg,
impressive.
I think Tony was right, though. He could have shot that with a Glock 19. Would have worked.
Probably could have.
Yeah, if you could have got close.
yeah. If
But-
there was such a thing as plastic in 1899. Excuse me, polymer. So, Smeg, you got it.
I'm trying to warm up here. I haven't done it in a long time, but
You remember, he
Dog
just
Body
got a new
Official.
shot. He's
Oh,
been
you
yelling.
want me to do it, Smeggy? I will. That's okay.
He's been yelling out the window like a Yahoo the last couple of hours because he got a new truck.
yeah. But anyways, Dog Body, by getting the correct answer of the Craig 3040, that makes you the tactical hot shot of the day.
Oh,
Another
Smeggy.
excellent performance, Smeg. Good job.
Although I must say, mine yesterday was a good one.
It was interesting. Actually, I'm referring to the whole show yesterday. It was interesting.
It's a fun show.
Yes. It was unique.
Anyways, thanks everyone for playing along with the not surprising at all tactical pop quiz.
Yes. Well, I say, when you got old farts in here, stuff isn't always so subtle.
Okay, so
And we can move
wanna
on to something else now.
want to do our, I forget what our category is called, State of the State?
Sure.
Or
So
something else?
every Tuesday we try to feature one of the states and talk about its situation with firearms. Why did we pick this state this week? Is there any reason?
It popped into my head, and
it's
no one
fun.
else seemed to be picking one. So I said, "What the hell? Let's do this one."
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure there wasn't some reason or something.
We may have even
So
done it
this
before, I
week
couldn't
we have this week we have Nebraska, and let's see. So far, in regards to a permit to purchase required, there is none for long guns, but there is for a handgun. Handgun certificate or concealed carry permit is required for the purchase of a handgun. So I guess I'm a little bit surprised at being kind of a Western state, although it's the end of the Great Plains, but still. Firearm registration, there is none for long guns or handguns. There is no owner licensing required, although what I kind of question about that, because you have to have a handgun certificate or a concealed carry permit to make the purchase of a handgun.
Yeah, but you don't have to have a license to own. So you go get the permit. If it's like how Michigan used to be, you go get the permit, then you just go and show that to the gun store, and they say, "Oh, okay," and then they sell you the gun. But you don't have to have any license or piece of paper to own the thing after the fact. You just need something
Gotcha.
to buy it.
Okay, in regards to carry permits, there's none for long guns and there is for handguns. Nebraska is a shall issue state for concealed carry. And if you don't have constitutional carry, shall issue is the next best thing. Open carry is permitted for both long guns and handguns. Open carry is generally permitted but may be restricted by local governments. For open carry in a vehicle, firearm must be clearly visible. There is state preemption of local restrictions. That means some cities can do something more restrictive than what the state government has in place. There is no assault weapons laws. There is no further restrictions on NFA items. In regards to background checks for private sales, there is none on long guns, but there is on handguns. A person acquiring a handgun must either have a handgun certificate or a concealed handgun permit, and has therefore been subject to a background check. And that is the state of the state for Nebraska.
Well, it doesn't sound too onerous, but yeah, it does sound like some pretty shitty little laws they snuck in there.
Well, the handgun certificate is kind of like a shanker
Well, it's like
on the state.
Well, they say, oh, it's a safety issue because handguns are inherently more dangerous. All right, so you have to have a certificate saying you know how to handle a handgun, but you don't for a rifle.
Although, something I heard the other day that I thought was quite interesting is, although handguns with today's modern medicine are far less lethal than a rifle. If you get shot with a rifle, you are far less likely to survive the incident than if you get shot with a handgun.
Well, yeah, that just makes sense, right?
But that's the opposite of what you just said. You said handguns are so lethal.
No. They're saying handguns are more, I think what they're thinking is handguns are more dangerous to handle for some whatever reason.
Oh, self-injury?
Yeah. Stupid. I'm not saying it's in any way justified. That might be the way they're looking at it, is handguns are just more, somehow more troublesome to handle or more dangerous to handle. So they must be, you must have a special permit that says you've been trained to handle a handgun.
I'm looking at, they're probably looking at it as handguns tend to be, used in crime more often. And at least like the way Michigan had it, the only reason they had the purchase permit was because then after the fact you had to take that in and get it registered, which it sounds like they don't have a registry. You just have to like get the background check thing first. And they give you a piece of paper that says, yep, this person's a good guy. And then you're okay.
But the devil's in the details. I'd like to see that in the law that it requires them to destroy the form after a certain amount of time goes by, so that it doesn't act as a substitute list of gun owners.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know what they're doing with that information after the fact. But
I looked up. Did you guys talk about that they've got in the works constitutional carry?
No, we haven't gotten to new stuff coming up yet from SMEG.
Okay.
and do they? I didn't see that. So I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah, so I just looked it up because I thought I remember hearing about it. So I have an article here from March 17, so March of this year. Nebraska lawmakers hear testimony on proposal to allow concealed carry without a permit. And committee took no action because the bill does not have a priority designation. It won't be scheduled for debate this year, even if the committee decides to advance it to the floor. So it doesn't have a lot of traction, I guess, but at least it's on the, it's there. So it's, not just a potential, at least it's there that can be acted on.
Well, that's better than nothing, I guess.
It says that, he also pointed out that Vermont has never restricted the rights. This is just an excerpt from this article. The guy pointed out that Vermont has never restricted the right of lawful citizens to carry concealed handguns. Based on FBI statistics from 2015, Vermont's rate of 118 violent crimes per 100,000 residents was the lowest in the country. So they're using Vermont as the example for constitutional carry, that the state, literally the state that's never had any type of restriction ever on carry, is the lowest crime rate in the country. And it's right up there next to New York and stuff. So you'd think all the criminals could just run over there and, pillage if they wanted to.
Except they'd get shot.
Well,
I mean,
there's that perception perhaps that they could, and they don't. And they go to New Hampshire and Connecticut and all the states that do have.
It just shows criminals aren't as stupid as they seem to be.
It'd be interesting
criminals
to know how New Hampshire compares to Vermont.
Criminal or like crime weight wise? Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Right.
they are pretty darn similar. They're, whatever.
Hottest place on earth.
Yeah, they're from the same area of the country, similar long history as far as one of the original colonies. Not identical, but very similar in many respects.
So, and one of the things that you mentioned, you said something about preemption or whatever, and that was one of the things I was going to mention is that I saw. It's a little bit older article. It was from April 12th, but Legislative Bill 68 passed its first floor vote, and that would be a preemption thing where I guess, let me go with this. So I guess laws have to pass like 3 times. LB 68 must pass the floor 3 times in order to be sent to the governor. So it got its first vote on April 12th, and I didn't see if it got second or third. I don't know. It might still just be sitting there or whatever.
That
ends
sounds like a
up-
flashback to Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And so, anyways, it basically does the whole preemption thing where local places cannot restrict more than the state does.
Yeah, that would definitely be positive for something like that to move through.
Right, yeah. Would amend state statutes that cities and villages do not have the power to regulate the carrying, registration, transfer, storage, ammunition, firearm accessories, etc., blah, 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 blah. So that'd be kind of cool. Like I said, I don't know where that went. And then the only other thing I saw even of this, like, for this year, gun related, was where was it? It was Legislative Bill 637. And that one is basically, it would protect the privacy of gun owners, requiring the information regarding firearm possession, sale, use, registration, permits, or applications maintained as confidential and not considered public. So, you know, when sometimes you hear about someone publishes everyone who has a concealed carry permit, or if maybe they do keep track of those handgun purchase permit things, like, you know, seeing how many of those you've applied for, so like it's considered confidential, not public record. So, and last I saw, it was like scheduled for a hearing and then nothing ever happened. So I think that's still just sitting there as well. So not too much going on in Nebraska gun related. But that might be also a good thing, because I didn't see any like anti-gun stuff trying to be snuck in there.
Exactly.
So sometimes if you're already sitting pretty good, not going backwards is a win. Although I always want to be marching forward. So
yeah.
And it looks like they are a little bit. And it's just kind of, you know how it is. Government takes time. It's slow. Yeah. And actually, I think that'd be kind of be a bad thing if, like, you could get a bill passed in, 20 minutes. Because then who knows what kind of crap they'd be doing. So I'm glad it takes a long time. The government that does the least is the best, or whatever that quote is. I know I butchered it.
That'd be like, Canada paying terrorists to go away.
Well, everybody got my apology for the Canadian people who think it's terrible. So, yeah, it still makes me sick.
But that is the state of the state and the upcoming things for Nebraska. So where do we want to move next? G, are you there?
Yeah, I've just been posting the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, who was mentioned in the article I was just looking at. We didn't have them on Every Second Matters yet, so I just went in and added them to the list of groups there. And I'm going to go see if it worked. Anyway, distracted, I guess. I'll move on to there. No, I broke something. Damn it. So we'll move on to the gun of the day. Dang it, I got a screen share.
Well, I just want to just real quick before you do that. Cycle Camp did have a question when we were talking about that. Nebraska saying it. Is that one certificate per gun or whatever? And I'm just going to answer, I don't know.
That's the way it was written?
It is. So once you get a handgun
it was written
license or whatever, then you can buy as many as you want, or you have to get a new one each time?
No, you have to get a new one each time.
Oh, that's stupid.
All right. Okay, so it is kind of similar to what I was aware of. So anyways, that's that, but we can go to the day now. We never claimed to be complete experts on Nebraska, and honestly, we did this research while talking on the show, because we just figured out what state we were doing during the first segment. So eventually we got to fill that schedule out of all the states.
Jeez whiz, you're worse than a Canadian sometimes.
What?
Let's talk about the gun of the day. It's the Colette Gravity Pistol. Now, this sounds really high-tech and futuristic. It's not. It's what they consider a parlor pistol. But it was in 1889, something like that. A repeater with a 20-shot magazine on it. It used the same kind of cartridges as like the Volcanic. So it was basically a bullet with a cavity that was filled with explosives, and then they put a cap on that, and then had a hammer that ignited it. Kind of an interesting feed system, and no springs or anything. Was in gravity, right?
Yeah.
You fired your round, you filtered it up.
Comes in when, as an example, the feed tube is located on top of the barrel rather than underneath it, and you would actually tilt the gun upwards, you know, a little bit towards the sky to literally give a gravity assist. So then it would go up, try to grab one of the bullets, and then bring it down to the chamber.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's a very
Part of the cocking cycle.
it's very early cartridge pistol in that it did use cartridges the same as volcanic. I don't know what they call them, fireballs or something like that. But yeah, conical bullet with a powder charge inside it and the primer. And so it's kind of neat when you think about it. It was almost like a caseless gun because there was no case. So that meant there was no ejection port. So these things would just drop in, fire, you drop the next one in, fire, drop the next one in, fire. There was nothing coming
They
up.
used the projectile as the case.
Yes.
Which was the limiting factor as to, even though, like as an example, the initial ones were 11 millimeter in size, they still weren't very powerful because you could only fit so much powder inside the cavity of an 11 millimeter bullet.
Oh yeah, they're probably only going about 300 feet per second. so like basically a big pellet gun. But I mean, it was made for shooting in your parlor. This is what they used to do for entertainment in the old days. They'd sit in their parlor and shoot at targets across the room. That's when guns were just cool.
I know it's referred to as a parlor gun, but I can't imagine. I would still think they'd be rather loud to shoot inside the house.
No, they actually talk about how it was quiet because of the caseless cartridge and everything, and it was pleasant to shoot. Didn't have much recoil.
That is a pretty little neat idea.
Well, I think about it, it's basically a 22 short, you know, but moving, you know, it's a bigger bullet, but it's moving slower. So, you know.
What's that meme say?
Yeah, 11 millimeters, that's still a decent sized cartridge, right? That's a 40.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they weren't so much going for size as they were going for storage space for powder and primer.
Yep.
I disagree with that meme. The light gravity pistol isn't as cool once you see it. I think it's still cool when you see it.
I know, you look at it and go,
it's funky looking, but I think that's cool. I wouldn't mind having one.
It looks like something a space pirate would have, you know?
And that's because, and part of it's simply because the feed tube rides on top of the barrel.
Yeah, I think they're neat. I think I'd like to see a reproduction of that works. That'd be kind of cool. Just think with modern technology using a brass bullet and modern explosives, you could probably get some velocity out of it, and it'd be caseless. Ah, man, that could be cool. You get some penetration with a brass bullet at 1,000 feet per second. That's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, I like when you go back and look at some of the older guns that had some type of innovation. I mean, it was still kind of new. They were just trying all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah,
and I like that. And there are some companies that are still doing that now, but it seems like not as much as back then when people were still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. It's kind of like we figured out what works. We tweak it a little bit, but they're mostly all kind of the same now. And I just like seeing new and interesting things.
And let's say the last 10 years, and maybe there's more that I thought of, and not that I necessarily like these guns, but you can say to a certain degree the Chiappa revolver kind of fits in that category. What else in the last 10 years has come out that's been
zip gun?
Regardless of whether it was successful, but that was different or unique.
Yeah, the zip gun, the Taurus Curve. Oh, the zip gun, the Taurus Curve.
I wouldn't call the Curve innovative. That's one of them. It still works like a regular gun. They just tweaked it a little bit so it's kind of curvy.
Yeah.
But the Keltec shotgun and that stuff, like they've done a lot of interesting things.
Where you can change feed tubes. I think that's definitely a unique idea.
UPS, or is it?
Like I said, there is some. I'm just saying I like back before they had everything figured out, they were trying
Right.
all sorts of different stuff. I think that's neat. Whether
Oh,
it
I
works or
agree.
not, obviously
I'm
it didn't
just
catch
trying to get
on.
I'm just trying to create a list while we're talking about it of what's out right now or was out in the last 10 years that was somewhat unique,
Innovative.
innovative.
Yeah. Well, ask the audience. What does the audience think? You guys, what do you think has come out recently that's really innovative and unusual?
Yeah, we'll give it to, let's say, from 2000 on. Make it 17,000.
Compared to what's come out, or what came out in the 1850s to 1930s.
Psycho Camp says bullpups, not with the one we had the other day that had a 40th anniversary. The Raging Judge.
Didn't they have they had big revolvers before, didn't they?
But did they have center fire
really? I mean,
cartridges
44 Magnums, nothing like those 410s.
with shotgun rounds?
No, I think that Raging Bull, that's unique. Or those 410 shotgun revolvers. You can call those unique.
I'm not sure if the Hudson qualifies as unique or just simply putting two things together.
Oh, I think that's innovative. So I'm thinking innovative more than unique. And, well, I guess it is unique also because there's not other stuff that is integrated like that.
Actually, it wasn't.
What are you talking about, the Hudson or the Max?
Oh, no, yeah, I was thinking the wrong thing. Never mind. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the...
Now, Psycho Camp mentioned the Rotary Magazine in the 1022, but that's been out for a long time.
Oh, yeah, there's been Rotary magazines around for years and years and years and years and years before Ruger ever came up with it. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots, but
I feel like
I think there used to be more back in the day. There was a lot more manufacturers, number one, than there is today. Firearms manufacturers are getting fewer and fewer.
But whatever. And there's not people every single day in their garages with mills and innovative new ideas and digital and 3D printers and sharing of files, and there's not more manufacturers. I don't believe that. Might be.
Yeah, I don't agree with that statement.
But big deal. That's just the changing conditions. We're going to see.
But back in the day, these guys would come up with these innovative ideas that nowadays we look at and go, "That's kind of goofy." But back then it was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And then
and here's innovation. Innovation, blah blah blah. Innovation, blah blah blah.
You're talking guys like. I'm talking a guy who manufactures 1,000 pistols versus a guy in his garage who makes like 5 ARs that are different.
Now, Artisan Tony mentions the Boberg. I know it's an all-steel gun, but other than that, what is it that's unique about the Boberg? I'm not that familiar with it.
How could you? It's a bullpup pistol, basically.
It pulls the rounds out of the back of the magazine and then loads them up into the barrel, and it's got a low bore axis, and it's, like Bob said, almost a bullpup, you could say.
Okay.
Cards that it's shaped differently. And it was a guy working in his, it's like an Apple of guns. The guy who made it in his garage and got bigger and sold it to Bond Arms or somebody.
No, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
would make it unique amongst current guns.
I feel like that gun that Bob brought up, though, that guy could have saved a bunch of time and effort if he would have just asked people who were going to shoot it what they were going to use it for, and if it was and then they wouldn't even have bothered making it because nobody would have wanted it.
Shouldn't he have asked him about his feelings, though?
That's what I mean. What are your thoughts about the gun?
No, that's not what you said. You said what he was going to do.
Back in the day, they probably didn't worry about any of that because they were men and not snowflakes.
Nobody wants to know my feelings. My feelings.
Yeah, we're getting off the rails here now.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
So
fuck my
let's
feelings.
move
Let's
on to
move on.
something.
we're not the only show on Tuesdays. We sit right the heck on top of Andalusia Armory. It's happening right now. It's probably a better show. So we only got 30 people watching today. Hopefully that's because a bunch of people over watching Andalusia Armory.
Actually, you're a little bit off. It should have ended in 50 minutes ago.
Oh, we're off because we started late.
Yeah,
right?
we're off.
So anyway, we did sit right on top of Andalusia Armory. So now there's no excuse. It's just our being sucky that people didn't show up for our show. But in 10 minutes, hit or miss starts. That's Night Strike and Smeggy have been doing that show for way more than a year now. After that, you got Big Gunner 81 doing his show from North Carolina now. And am I missing somebody on Tuesday? Or do I feel like
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is Clover Tax. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I thought I was going to miss somebody on Tuesday there. But anyway, we'll go on to
I was just
tomorrow.
trying to commit it to memory.
You got it. Tomorrow will be Wednesday, and before we do our show back here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, will be the early watch, and that's a long show. So most of the day on Gun Channels, you can tune in. Head over to Early Watch. There'll be a link there on the main page, and it's like a radio show, except you can not just listen. You can jump into Gun Channels and participate in the text chat. You can even jump in the show if you want. Jump in the actual and participate like we are in here. So it's a totally different way to spend your day with gun-related stuff. It's fairly structured, but it's also kind of an open format because it's so long. It's really an experience. I encourage you to check it out. And it's really made Gun Channels a daytime place. So thanks to Jimmy James and Tony from Illinois and everybody that listens to the show, because you're all participants in it and you make it a unique thing. So definitely worth checking it out. And then we'll be back here, like I say, tomorrow. Tomorrow will be episode 363. We'll be talking about entertainment stuff because it's Wednesday. Hunting tournaments is our entertainment segment. Our good idea, bad idea will be Big Bore EDC, or maybe we should call that Big Bore CCW. And then on Wednesdays, we do our hashtag Daily Gun Show Showdown. So if you're interested in participating in that over on the Instagrams, if you tag your photos with hashtag Daily Gun Show, we'll see them. And last week we had 598. We're shooting for 650 or 700 this week. So go over and tag your pictures. The 4 of us will get together. We'll judge their pictures, and then we vote on it. And if we can't come up with a winner ourselves, then we let our audience chime in. Anyway, we come up with a winner, and then go around bragging about that and lording it over all your friends.
Yeah. Or, never mind. So,
You're gonna profit off of it? Yeah, you could profit off of it. And yes, you're going to get more ladies next time you go to the bar. But that's just what happens when you win the hashtag Daily Gun Show Showdown.
okay. Well, I don't know. Does that wrap it up, guys? I feel
No.
like- no? What?
We do a movie every day. We try to remind people of a movie you might not have seen in a while, something that has to do with guns.
We don't do one every day.
Oh, you didn't do one yesterday, you're saying?
Well, because the host, we're not familiar with the movie that was in the show notes.
Oh, what was the movie?
Yeah, I actually went and looked it up, and I actually have seen the movie. I started to watch it and went, oh, yeah, I've seen this.
What was it?
A lot about what I thought about the movie.
You can tell us
Resident
what-
Evil.
Oh, so it's the same movie as today.
Right. That's why it's in today's notes, is because we didn't talk about it yesterday, so I just pushed it down one.
Oh, right on. So I like this movie. So you have not yet seen it? You guys didn't go watch it? Bob said he's seeing
Nope.
it now. You didn't go watch it?
I've seen
It's
it.
worth watching. No, you didn't like it, Bob?
Oh, no, I thought it was trash, other than the hot chick in it. But, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, Bob's crazy. You've seen it, Smeggy?
Well, of course I've seen it. It's great.
You're like Bob. You feel like this movie shouldn't have been made. It's garbage, filth.
No,
Now, you
I
guys talk
think,
about
I
the
think
one
that's
from-
an example of a video game turned into a movie done right.
Exactly.
It's a zombie
Are you
movie
talking about
done
the one that
right.
was just made, or the one from 10 plus years ago?
There's a whole bunch of them. We're talking about the original first one. I don't know when it was made, but there's the
Okay,
first-
like 2006 or 8.
what are they up to?
Was.
7 or 8 or something now already? They've done quite a few sequels to it. I don't like
There's 6
the
of them.
sequels, but they're not as good. The first one, I never played the video game, but I agree with Smeggy. Since it's from a video game, a lot of times video game movies are dumb. This one is not dumb. It's really good. And it's just as far as a sci-fi movie, it's awesome. I don't know what Bob is thinking. Maybe he was all drunk when he watched it. You should watch it when you're not all crazy, because it's an awesome movie, Bob. It's got Amelia, what's her name?
Oh, it's got so many holes in it. It's such a badly
holes. It's a sci-fi movie about a massive underground complex that a chick has to go down and basically on her own fight a bunch of weird.
No, she was already down there, if you remember.
She was not already down there. She was knocked out in the top. You don't even remember the movie. She has to go down there. Anyway, it's an interesting movie. It's sci-fi, and you guys have seen the video game. I guess you appreciate it from that angle too. Is it a good video game?
Dobermans. She kicks Dobermans in the head. You know, even if they're zombie Dobermans, I just don't like it.
That part about it, I'm not super happy with. But they're zombie Dobermans at least.
Still, just be kind. Pull it between the eyes, and you know, don't go kick their heads off like a soccer ball. That's just terrible. She was just mean in that movie. That's all. Looked good doing it though.
Right.
Still don't like the movie. How many holes? It was not well. There continuity. So many problems with the continuity in that movie. That really bugs me about movies. If the continuity isn't good, I you know, if like that coffee stain doesn't stay on a shirt, if you know the scenes clip and then all of a sudden they're in a different scene where they're not there and then they are there, and yeah, there was all kinds of weird shit went on in that movie that I just didn't like. That wasn't supposed to be part of the movie. It was just sloppy movie making. So that's all I'm saying.
Like there's this pink elephant in one scene, and then the next scene was like a yellow kangaroo. Come on.
Oh, please. I haven't seen that pink elephant for days.
Listening. All right.
So I'm trying to look up the internet gun database or whatever, and I'm not finding a page for it. All I found was like a picture of the poster. So I guess I'm not 100% sure what guns are in there. I don't remember off the top of my head which ones are in there.
Because I know, like, you know, there's a whole thing with her and a double barrel shotgun shooting silver dollars, which is like, nah, it's not really possible. But like dimes maybe, but you know.
Was that in that one? That's in the third one, I thought.
Well, it might be in one of them, but it's still the same kind of like just unrealistic, stupid shit they do. I mean, it's just that's what I didn't like about the movie. And the first one was like that too. Just dumb.
Well, I think you're dumb. So it's a great movie. Everyone go watch it. I say go watch all of them. I like all of them. They start getting more and more crazy, but that's also kind of how the video games went. They're always trying to outdo each other. You start getting more, you know, unbelievable monsters and things. But either way, it is a good show.
It gets kind of weird, but yeah, I don't think, especially when you can watch them like all on Netflix or something, or watch them on some kind of internet thing, then it's totally worth spending a day just watching that whole science series. I've never done it. I don't know if I ever will, but I could see that being interesting because it is a crazy plot as you get all those ones together.
No,
I don't know. Is this one of these games where they kept coming out with a new game every year for a while, and that's why the movies?
They did come out with a bunch of new games as well. Yeah, I didn't play all the games. I did play the first one, and you asked that earlier before I could answer. Bob said whatever, but yes, the game also was very entertaining and was a good game. And so I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if like the 5th and 6th game line up with the 5th and 6th movie. I think they did kind of diverge there a bit, but either way, they're good. It's obviously a franchise that survived a long time, and I also want to note that our normal movie expert, Island Z Survivor, says Smeggy is correct. So he disagrees with Bob and agrees with me.
Oh God, no one agrees with you, Smeggy. They're just being kind.
Z agrees with me. So
That's why I said he's being kind.
no, he's being correct, as I am, and as G-Webs is. I don't. Dano, you said you hadn't seen it, right? So I guess you don't have an opinion.
Correct.
You like
Okay.
science fiction though?
Oh, I love science fiction.
I think you'd like it. I think it's worth your time checking it out. Dano has this like.
Don't do it. Waste your time.
If you've never seen anything, he has this opportunity to watch some of these movies for the first time. I think everybody should pause for a second and appreciate that. Bastard.
Don't bother Dano. It's not that good. Unless you like really hot redheaded chicks. And yeah.
Or if you like
I like
zombie
looking at
movies
hot
and
chicks.
sci-fi stuff.
For like sci-fi movies.
Hot
exactly.
chicks are hot.
I was looking at today in history. It's kind of boring. There's not that much. In 1867,
Well,
Andrew
History
Jackson-
apologizes for being boring today.
in 1867, President Johnson signed the act creating the territory of Wyoming. And in 1850, I don't know why they have them out of order. In 1850, I'm guessing approximately 1850, gold was discovered in Oregon, starting the Oregon Gold Rush.
Yep. That got your West settled and or it started it. I mean, you know.
And the Donners killed.
You know, but think about it though. If it wasn't for greed, you know, it would have taken a lot longer to settle the country. But you know, you tell somebody, "Hey, you can just pick money up off the ground," they're gonna be like, "I'm fucking moving there now." Oh, sorry about the language, guys.
Well, I'm going to jump out and go jump over to Hit or Miss Tuesday nights 9 o'clock, but I think we're about done anyway, so I'll let you guys wrap it up.
All right.
And
And congratulations
later.
on the new set of wheels. I think you're going to be very happy, and I like the looks of it.
Yeah, we're setting up a gun channel with Convoy.
Yeah.
CD and chat and CDs.
Gonna put
So-
Spank in his VW micro bus in the middle.
So make sure you get
Not
that tow
exactly.
bar for when G-Webs comes to the Midwest.
It's a great idea. Then you can tow me around. I don't have to waste all that gas.
That's true.
I certainly could tow it with that, so.
You'd probably
All
go.
right, but anyways, I'm out of here. See you guys later.
All right, so
Adios.
Yes, Maggie.
it's a great idea because then everybody would appreciate that being a Chevy being towed by a Ford, and I could just kick back and
Well, you think about it, man. You could use the van like a camper, and just tow it around with the Ford, so you'd never break down and stuff. It'd be great.
then when you come down here, you can tow it. It'd be great. Tow it behind your Ford van.
Well, I'll have my truck behind my van, so I don't think I could tow.
Now you're bringing your truck again. So Bob's going to take his three-quarter ton Dodge truck that's all broke down. I'm sure you haven't fixed it yet. Bed's all gnarly. And then you're going to tow that behind your van camper.
Which is currently also broken down.
I just got to change the motor. It's not a big deal.
No big deal.
So you have two vehicles, both busted as fuck.
No, the truck runs fine. It's got a bent up fender and it's a truck, so what do I care? I think I might even just straighten it out myself and put the fender flare back on and go good enough.
See?
You know, the repairs you're making are getting cheaper and crappier all the time.
No, I just don't care that much anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well,
was
that is obvious.
At least I don't remember a Convoy in the Resident Evil movies. Smeggy got I'm answering comments but back and forth, ping pong in between YouTube and gun channels. Smeggy got, what, a Ford 150?
Yep.
150. That's like the 9 millimeters of trucks, isn't it?
Basically, well, maybe more like a 380 ACP.
I think Bob and I can both agree.
It's
That would you
definitely,
buy under a 1-ton vehicle? What are you thinking? You need at least
The most popular truck in their line.
Yeah, but that's because it's a truck for people who don't need a truck.
yeah, a lot of girls buy trucks.
Yeah, that really is a girl's truck. Men buy at least 250s, if not F350s, right? Like 3/4 tons or 1 tons.
We'll have to
I
talk.
can kind of understand in some places if you got a 1-ton truck, you have to get a safety inspection every year because they think, oh,
Yeah,
what
right
kind
until
of
the
diesel
gas
can
goes
work?
back up to $4 or $5 a gallon.
You know what? They're not bad on gas. I mean, gas is gas. You're gonna have to spend it anyway. Shit, you know what kind of mileage my new
You can
camper van
spend it
gets?
at the bar, or you can spend it at the gas station. Where you want to spend it?
I'll spend it at the gas station because I can get a 12-pack of beer there cheap down south.
I'd rather spend it at the bar.
Yeah, well,
Get me an umbrella in my drink.
you don't need them. You don't,
Artisan Tony
you don't
said,
know about the sexy girls that hang out at truck stops, man. They're hot.
Artisan Tony said that Bob should drag a smart car. But what about if you dragged an electric car? You would be charging it all the time when you're dragging it, right?
Yeah, probably. If you had, yeah, but that would also kill the mileage on your whatever you're towing it with. Resistance. It's all about resistance, right? And
Well,
that's the thing. Is,
We hit a nerve. There's a lot of 150 owners out there that can't handle the 1-ton vehicles like I got.
Yeah.
Is yours 1-ton, Bob?
Which, my camper?
Yeah.
Oh, my camper's, yeah, at least a 1-ton. It's got dual wheels and everything. It's the big van.
Yeah, unless you're paying extra because of the wear and tear you put on the roads, then you ain't trying hard enough with your tonnage.
And now these are two guys driving monster gas guzzlers as this host drives a Honda Civic.
I don't even want to think about it. I've just been driving this thing around town, and I'm thinking it's probably getting like 8 miles to the gallon or something. It's like you're watching. You can watch the gas gauge just drop as you drive.
Well, that's because it's got the big V8 in it.
Oh yeah.
When you hit the gas, you think it's just the gas shifting in the tank, but it's not. That's actually it's
So
sucking
in.
it into the.
Exactly. It gets lighter really fast.
Yeah, well, no, I had cars like that when I was younger. Got 4 miles to the gallon if you had your foot on the floor. I mean, you could literally watch a 25-gallon gas tank just go.
I got when I went down to Tennessee, I got on the highway 40.5 miles per gallon, and then the first couple days I was back here and just in town running around, I was getting 35. So
Well, we're gonna find out when I take this first leg. You know, it'll take a lot of gas, and I'll be saving a lot of money on hotel and boarding, which is good. But it will be sucking a lot of gas, and if it turns out that there's not enough sport to pay for that, then I'll probably end up having to do something like that, sell this thing, and get like a little minivan because that's crazy amount of difference in mileage. I'll probably be getting 13 on the highway, so that's not good gas mileage.
yeah, and it's because of the not so much the weight as it is that extra length adds additional. There's that suction of pulling it down the hall.
Anyway,
Road.
The physics, yeah.
so we're still live. It says it here.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry for the banter.
started into a band chat. What the hell, dude? Hey,
This is called live, interactive.
oh, this is coming from you, Daniel, Mr. Schedule. Oh, for
I
God's
mean-
sakes.
We're at the end of the show notes, so this is where we can do what we want to do, or we can just end the show.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me.
We probably should. So we already talked about what tomorrow's show is going to be all about. We'll see you then. We encourage you to check out Early Watch tomorrow. Check out Hit or Miss right now. Then Big Gunner after that usually has an interesting show as well. And we'll see everybody tomorrow.
And my final request is please consider donating to the Tactical Pop Quiz of the Day with a question and answer by sending it to dailygunshow@gmail.com. Subject, Pop Quiz. dailygunshow@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.
All you can eat sushi buffets are not a good idea.
I was just going to bring that up. But anyway, I shouldn't have probably said that. I'm sure there's been enough bringing up. Anyway, let's end this show. We end our show with a quote. Before that, I want to remind everybody, we do have a Patreon account. You can donate to us there. As well, please hit the like, share, subscribe button. Give us that little Thumbs up. Wait, that sounded weird. Thumbs up. Okay. Anyway, we're going to do our quote today. We always end the show. Theodore Roosevelt. He was a cool president. You know, he was kind of a cool guy. But anyway, here's his quote. Don't hit at all if it is honorably possible to avoid hitting, but never hit soft. Theodore Roosevelt. On that note, and something to live by. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you all tomorrow.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.